While there's been much criticism of how much Johnston has spent on homelessness and if that's contributed to this budget pinch, the mayor batted that away, saying that's been an investment in city growth.
So we do not have any encampments in our city center. We don't have any large encampments anywhere in the city. If you are running a business in this city or have a home in this city, that is a transformational change that makes you more likely to do business here or live here.
Along the same lines, he was hopeful that revitalizing downtown will bring back visitors willing to spend money and buff up the city's bottom line.
We have to do two things. As I said, you have flattening revenue, you have increasing costs. You have to do two things. You have to both drive increases in your revenue to recover, and you have to drive reductions in your costs to make those two lines meet. So we will do both of those things.
He said city government has been growing at unsustainable levels and will have to get smaller, faster, and more efficient. But what does all this mean for Denver residents? What's the impact going to be?
Oh my gosh. Welcome back, everybody, to America's Mom. I'm your host, Sharona Bishop. Can you smell the lie detectors going off? I mean, the alarms are blaring as I'm listening to more rhetoric flow out of Mike Johnston's mouth. I was just in Denver. And let me just tell you, the homelessness, yeah, I understand they pushed a lot of it to Lakewood, Colorado, which is, right inside. It's basically Denver. It's right there, but they've pushed a lot of those encampments out of Denver to make it look like they're cleaning things up. But you and I both know that it's not going away. The only reason Mike Johnston has had to publicly deal with this is because of Tom Pullman and his cleaning up the illegal aliens and all of the attention that Mike Johnston got because the city is filthy. It's disgusting. It's violent. It's not safe. I was just there and I saw homelessness everywhere. I saw tweakers everywhere. And I'm in a federal building. I'm in a place that should be pretty darn secure and feel pretty safe. I don't think I felt threatened. I'm used to seeing this in Denver. I'm used to tweakers walking by as you're trying to eat lunch. And I'm used to seeing the tents set up so people can have clean needles and, all that, because they encourage substance abuse. They encourage drug abuse, and they have turned that city into an absolute disaster. So it's really hilarious to watch Mike Johnston standing there saying this. Why am I talking about this? Because more and more, you have to know people are not voting for this. They're not voting against their own best interest, because here's the reality. I trust the people of Denver. You should too. And this is the video that they put up to counter Mike Johnston's absolute nonsense. Take a look at this.
Hello, everyone. Well, it's the last day of the jury trial here in Denver.
Is actually, the sanctuary city of Denver is boasting financial cuts, like defunding the police by $8 million to take care of illegal aliens. There's an actual organization in Denver called Hope Has No Borders, very cute name, of course, where you can actually get paid and paired to host illegal immigrants. All you need to do is dial 211, complete a 20-minute phone call, describe the type of living space you have and how long you would like to host illegal aliens, and in return, you'll get your food and your utility bills paid for. Joe Biden's economy. This is how it works. Currently, illegals receive 6 months of free housing and food in Denver. But apparently that's not enough. Not to mention that Denver has a population of over 700,000, about 80% identify as Democrats, and it is the most liberal city in Colorado, just by pure rankings, not by assumption, but I'd assume correctly anyway. About 40,000 illegals have infiltrated the community over the past 15 months. And the city has allocated almost 90 million, 89.9 on migrant assistance for 2024. So I just can't imagine being a host for migrants that don't speak your language, and then they can run an absolute muck in your home. And then I'm also thinking about the fact that you bring them into your home and it's like, are they doing chores? Because if they start to help out in the home, to me, this just seems like some weird virtual signaling that turns into a snowball of systematic racism in a sense, right? They keep illegals relying on Americans for food, shelter, and dare I say, labor.
Actually, we call that modern slavery. That's what that actually is. People who are here illegally, who are afraid, they come into the homes of these people. You saw the videos actually ran by CNN News where they were bragging about having Maria from Mexico cooking their dinners and watching over their children. And in exchange, she got to live with them. This is a real program. And actually, Denver, Colorado is facing a $200 million deficit. But Mayor Mike Johnston can't figure out like how that could possibly be when he's so pro-business and he's cleaned up the downtown area and everything's just amazing. And so if you listen to his rhetoric at the beginning of this show, the nonsense, it's a lot like asking a coach, how are we going to win this game, right? How are we going to win this basketball game? We need to score a lot of points. That's basically what Mike Johnston said. But as far as applying the logic of actual business advancement and growth and production and safety, your citizens need to feel safe. They need to feel safe, but they're not going to downtown Denver. And actually, there was an incredible video just released this week, 16 hours in downtown Denver from just last week, and you're going to be shocked and mortified. These politicians are constantly talking out of both sides of their mouth. Who they are beholden to on the representative front, like who is lobbying them, who is backing them, who is funding them, who is pushing them in a direction that is completely counter to supporting their electorate. That's what I want to know. These elections, these machine elections are giving us the worst possible outcomes for state representative, for city representation, for school board representation, for county representation. It's not working. And that's even more alarming as we've been bringing the information to you about Arapahoe County, Colorado, not to mention the 2020 elections, the 2021 municipal election that has Clerk Tina Peters in prison for 9 years. The more that we're shining the light on these machine elections and what they're bringing to you, the colossal failures of representation they're bringing into you, like Mayor Mike Johnston, for example, who talks out both sides of his mouth. He knows he's lying and pushing the homeless, the majority of those large encampments anyway, to Lakewood does not mean you got rid of homelessness. It means you're trying to front while Tom Homan is systematically going city by city, collecting all of these illegal aliens who are costing the taxpayers of Colorado a massive fortune. And that takes me into our first guest today, actually. I come from Colorado, 6th generation Coloradan. I've watched the state literally turn into hell. You know, it's like watching the Batman movie. And this is our demise, watching these elected machine appointed officials destroy our state, one bad policy after another, trying to tell us we voted for wolves to destroy our agriculture, our farming, and our hunting. They are trying to tell us we actually voted for that, trying to tell us that we voted for the quadrupling of our property taxes in Colorado, which, by the way, is under investigation now. That was a 2020 ballot measure that is now under investigation by the federal government because they found that in Arapahoe County, that particular measure had been changed in the cast vote record. This is wild, and it's completely true. We're not voting for this stuff, and that's my point. Even if Denver was 80% Democrat, as she said, they're not voting against themselves. Nobody wants crap on the sidewalks and to have poop apps on their phone. Nobody's voting for homelessness and violence and tweakers and illegals. We're not voting for that. We're not doing those things that are in complete opposition of our own freedoms, protections, and personal advancement. In 2018, we had the massive gas and oil bill It was a measure that we all voted on that basically said there could be no wells within 500 feet of a home. Well, that's just not a thing. I mean, in Colorado, people love it. They get paid for it. They get paid having those wells on their property. It's in their best interest to have those wells on the property. But you know who didn't like it? Jared Polis. And after the people voted, leave the wells alone, Polis overwhelmingly voted, stop messing with oil and gas in 2018. And that included our Democrats of Colorado. Jared Polis swooped in and made an executive order saying there would no longer be wells permitted within 500 feet of a home. Totally in opposition of what the people had literally just voted in a ballot measure. So you tell me, do you really think the people of Colorado or California or Oregon or New York are actually voting against their own best interests? And we're not even talking about the transgender bills that have come through and the horrible representation that is voting for that in the House of Colorado. So my guest has been a part of exposing what's happening there, building bridges in the Colorado legislature amazingly. He has the ability to talk to both the left and the right and make sense of it all. I can't do that. I can tell you that right now. Like, I need duct tape every time I'm around a far left progressive Democrat in Colorado who is destroying parental rights and touting more mutilation of children in order to develop an economy in Colorado. And that's truly, really where Colorado is at right now. They are seeking economic advancement by the mutilation of children. You know, it's wild. But this guy manages to build bridges. He's been a state representative now for 3 years and has done a phenomenal job of at least helping to explain to the public exactly what's going on without hate, without rhetoric, and amazingly, without malice. I give him full credit because this is a very difficult position to be in Colorado as you watch all of your personal freedoms be evaporated by the signing of a pen in Jared Polis's office. He's also running for governor of Colorado. And I got to sit down with him at the National Lawmakers Association meeting in Virginia at the great, just a great organization, a great event that was so necessary for people to be able to come together and figure out how they can advance. I'm just going to say common sense at this point. How do we just get back to common sense throughout this country? But the National Association of Christian Lawmakers is definitely paving the way to provide tools and power and support. And Scott Bottoms is a part of that. Representative Scott Bottoms, we sat down and talked about the future of Colorado and his future as the next governor of Colorado.
Welcome back, everybody. We're here at Liberty University for the NACL conference. That is National Association of Christian Lawmakers. And if you didn't know this conference existed, well, I didn't either. I didn't know this association existed. I didn't know there was a place of accountability for our lawmakers who run on Christ. And then in a few short years, you wonder, well, what happened to that religion? What happened to that conviction? Well, there is an organization that is here and designed specifically to help Christian lawmakers maintain their Christianity while they are serving you. But it's even bigger than that. It's advancing new limiting, restricting government to advance your constitutional protections, laws across the country, associations with businesses, with CEOs, with pastors, all headed in the same direction, which is to put our country first and make sure that your Constitution is protected. Therefore, you will have the say over your life. And that's why we're here today. I want to take just a moment to remind you also, before we get into our next conversation, you're here on Ex America News with us because we're telling the truth, we are spreading the truth, and we need you to help us do that. So make sure you hit the share button, make sure you're pushing this information out to all of your friends, family, and your connections everywhere, because this is how we grow. This is how we get the truth out there. So thank you guys for being with us. But again, this event is so important because it gives us, again, more choices and options. And if your representative is not a part of this organization, does not know about this association yet, it's your responsibility to introduce them. It's the NACL, the National Association of Christian Lawmakers, and all of our representatives need to be a part of this, this incredible association. Now, my next guest, if you're from Colorado and you're watching right now, you are going to recognize this man. He has been everywhere and is now running for governor of the state of Colorado. Representative Scott Bottoms is here at NACL. And I got to tell you, I was so impressed, so encouraged to see massive national support for your governor campaign. So congratulations to you and thank you for your time today.
Yeah, thank you. As always, I enjoy being on your show, and you always engage at the right level. You get the right questions. So yeah, thanks for having me, and thanks for being here at this event. This really is a movement that's carrying forward in a pretty profound way. So
we needed this. We needed this 5 years ago. It's
Right.
One of the biggest complaints that people have is you have people running for office, they promise all these things, they use God in their vernacular, but within 2 or 3 years, you don't recognize that representative any longer. But that has not been your story. For those who don't know you, can you give us a little bit of your background?
Yes. So connected specifically to this event, I've been a pastor since 1990, jumped into being a pastor at 20 years old. And that's what I've done throughout different things. Now, I've served on a lot of different committees and groups and boards, some university boards, human trafficking groups, a lot of things like that are all in that vein of this pastoral thing. And then a few years ago, began the conversations outside my purview. I didn't expect this to actually run for representative. And now I'm serving, just finished my 3rd year in the House. And got 1 more year left, but now running for governor. November 26th will be the election.
So I know people hear about Colorado thanks to Tom Homan and Aurora when we had the cartel members who were doing all sorts of violence. We've had just unbelievable criminal activity in the state of Colorado. But can you kind of give us an overview of what it's like to be a conservative Republican lawmaker in the state of Colorado?
It's difficult. I don't go into the House expecting to get bills passed. In fact, the Democrats told me last year that they will make sure that no bill that I ever run will ever be passed. If it has my name on it, won't get passed. I even had kind of an innocuous bill this past session, and they came to me and said, "We love the bill, but we're not going to pass it because you're on it." And so there's that. But I don't let that discourage me. I knew that going in. I didn't expect everybody to just flip over red because I walked into the House. But I am a very, very strong voice, and I will not compromise. I will not give up. And things like you're talking about with this Venezuelan cartel, I've been very vocal about this across the state and outside the United States. In fact, I get more interviews, not outside the United States, outside the state of Colorado, in the United States. I get more interviews from other than Colorado states. In fact, I actually just had a conversation with some people I'm pretty sure you've interviewed from Romania that was asking me about Venezuelan drug cartels in Colorado. That's what we're known for now. And then our state still pretends like it doesn't exist, right? And then they're trying to set up shop in Springs, and so Colorado Springs, so you have that whole 100 people arrest, 100 illegal immigrant arrest. These are crazy issues, the transgender issues. They're trying to take our kids from us. It doesn't matter where you point, to the economy, to parental rights, to children, to illegal immigrant crime, all of these issues all across the state of Colorado. We are failing in every single category. We are the second most crime-ridden state in the United States, sixth most regulated in the United States. And so when does all this stop? Well, it's going to stop when I'm governor. That's when it's going to stop.
And for those who are just joining us, Representative Scott Bottoms from Colorado running for governor, going up against, it sounds like, Senator Bennett.
Probably so, yes.
It's sounding that way. I know the current attorney general has thrown his hat in, but I think Trump is single-handedly destroying his campaign. So I don't even think we have to worry about Attorney General Phil Weiser. But why do you want to run, especially when people look at Colorado, they feel it's hopeless. It's completely progressive, leftist, communist controlled. The Democrats hold every office in the state of Colorado. Why do you want to take this on?
They hold every office, but they also hold all the courts and the Supreme Court and the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals. So this is why people like Tina Peters can be put in jail and then just expected to spend 9 years there for something that was not even a crime, because we are so Democrat controlled. But here's what's happening. The Senate in Colorado and the House in Colorado are very Marxist leftist, and they're coming after our kids, they're coming after all this stuff. But what's happening is I'm getting phone calls, connections from Democrats all over the state of Colorado, and I'm like the most conservative guy in the House, and they're calling me saying, "How can we make you governor?" And even large Democrat donors that call us and say, "How can we put Scott in the governor's seat?" The reason is because the average Democrat in the state of Colorado is not this Marxist leftist. When you start coming after kids and make parents affirm a transgender ideology, that's not a Democrat-Republican issue. That's a parental issue. And the parents are not going to stand for this stuff. And so they keep doing the craziness. They keep, they've invited Ilhan Omar to the state of Colorado to do a speech, and then they firebomb Jews trying to peacefully protest.
Yeah, can we talk about that a little bit?
Yeah.
What exactly happened in Boulder, Colorado last week?
So there was a group of people that were doing what they call a peace walk, and they had got out on the streets in Boulder and were carrying some signs and stuff, and they were basically just saying, "Release the hostages from October 7, 23. And this has been a long time that these people, I think I read to this morning, 55 people are still hostages by Hamas, terrorist group. And we saw this in the House of Representatives in Colorado last year and the year before, where they're doing all these pro-Palestinian things. And one of our representatives spent 3 hours sitting up in the top of the gallery, screaming down to us on the floor, and nobody did anything to her. The speaker didn't do anything, and she's screaming and cussing at us that we better recognize Palestinian rights. Well, this is the flavor that we're getting from the House in Colorado. They are truly leftist Marxists in the House. And so these people were set on fire. This guy had a homemade flamethrower, and then he also had some Molotov cocktails, and he was throwing them at these people. I think he set 7 or 8 people on fire. And this is the same group of people that are inviting Omar to come and speak in Colorado. This has gone crazy in the state of Colorado. We've got to stop this stuff. But we don't have any recourse when everybody, the Attorney General, the CBI, everybody is controlled by Governor Polis and the Democrats. We can't even get basic safety and security. Well, part of my campaign as governor is we're going to reclaim safety and security. We will be safe in Colorado again when I'm governor. We have got to reclaim a lot of things in Colorado, though.
The irony of the whole situation, too, is Jared Polis is a Jew.
Yes, that is the irony. And I saw, I can't think of his name right now, but he came out with a statement saying, Jews, when are you going to stop doing this? When are you going to stop doing this? When are you going to stop voting for these people? When are you going to stop supporting these people? When are you going to stop supporting people that will bring Omar to Colorado to complain and talk about your deaths? From the river to the sea means eradication of Jews.
Yeah.
When does this stop?
It's never made any sense to me.
It never has made sense.
Yeah, it's definitely a wild time in Colorado, and that's Governor Jared Polis. His policies, of course, you mentioned the trans ideology that's happening there. Can you kind of give everybody an update on what's happening with the transgender? There was a wild dead name bill that was passed,
Yes.
and the newest transgender laws, and how Colorado is violating the rights of Christians in that state.
So the big bill that got the attention was 1312, and this basically was saying that your children will be taken from you if you don't affirm transgender ideology. Now remember, I think this is important to note. Although not all transgenders fall into this category, LGB is a sexual preference. TQ+, transgenderism, is actually an ideology. It is a Marxist ideology. And you say, well, what's the difference? The transgender ideology forces speech. I've had these statements. You can go onto my website and see speeches I've given about this. But I basically told them there's no such thing as misgendering. There's no such thing as dead naming. Those are false creations. They are created by this ideology that says you're going to say what we want you to say, when we want you to say, and how we want you to say it. That's not about people wanting to wear clothes the opposite or have surgery. That is an ideology. That is a controlling Marxist ideology. Everything about it, they're going to take your children away. This is Marxism. And the average person in the state of Colorado, they're strongly against this. They're tired of this. This is part of the conversations I'm having with Democrats. Is we've got to take our Democrat Party back. And so that's part of my Reclaim Colorado. Is we're going to help all Coloradans reclaim Colorado, all of them, because so many people are done. But there's another bill that was passed. This one didn't get as much information out there. But 1309 basically is going to fund this whole thing. Well, what it also is including in that funding is it is going to include, this was adding $500 million to illegal immigrant medical care, including transgender surgeries for illegal immigrants.
Incredible. Women don't get that kind of care?
No, they don't. I mean, and there was a whole list. You can go to the bill and read it. Just thing after thing after thing after thing. That's all these cosmetic surgeries for transgender illegal immigrants.
It's incredible. This is Colorado.
This is
Colorado. Why you're running.
This is why I'm running for governor. This is why we've got to reclaim some very basic things. We've got to reclaim parental rights. We have to reclaim childhood. We've taken childhood and parenthood away from the people of Colorado, and this is for everybody. This is Democrats, Republicans, independents, unaffiliated. We all have the same basic values when it comes to parenthood and childhood, but we can't seem to get that message past the House and the Senate because of their crazy bills. And so we're going to reclaim Colorado for all Coloradans.
The National Association of Christian Lawmakers, what do they do to support you? And again, as we started, there is a lot of concern when we have elected officials start one way and then in a couple years they're on a totally different path. How does the NACL help support you in your values and your integrity really as a representative for Colorado?
That's a great question. This is my second conference to be at with NACL, and I love it. I absolutely love every piece of it. We work through model legislation as Christians. How do we legislate as Christians? How do we even campaign? There's a lot of things that go along with this. As a Christian, I'm not going to compromise on certain things. Now, it is something I have noticed. In fact, this is what was part of the propelling me into become a representative, and then now I've been traveling all over the state of Colorado for the last couple of years, trying to wake up pastors and church leadership. But when I see people that are Christians, say they're Christians, run on that, there's a difference between saying you're a Christian, but actually running on that concept. Okay. When you run on that concept, I think you need to be held accountable for that once you're in office. If you start compromising on your basic Christian values, then let's just say this publicly. Are you really a Christian? Because if those are guiding principles, if those are absolute foundational moral principles in your life, you should be consistent with that, no matter how long you're in office or what position you run for. There was a statement said in one of our meetings already at NACL here that says, if you have to compromise to get elected, what happens when you stand before Jesus? Are you gonna say, well, but I had to get elected, right? And so I think that the NACL here has been powerful in just reinforcing and helping. And for my wife and I, when we first came to the first one last year, for us, so refreshing to hear other lawmakers. And I'm the only pastor in state office in Colorado, right? I'm the only representative or senator that's a pastor, and I come here and there's like 7 or 8 other guys that are senators and representatives, and I'm like, man, this is awesome. We sit and talk pastor stuff / legislative stuff, and it is such a powerful thing. This has been one of the best conferences that I've ever been to in my whole life. From pastor side, legislative side, doesn't matter. This, because it incorporates everything, and all the people that are brought to speak last year, this year, they're just powerful leaders. We got to hear Senator Cotton this year, very solid guy. I've watched him from afar and been amazed by him. And so, yeah, NACL, any pastor, legislator, leader needs to be at this kind of thing.
Well, Representative Scott Bottoms, thank you so much. Thank you for taking a stand, a very firm stand. And it's been pretty amazing, I will say, watching you in Colorado. I've learned, watching the dynamics between you and the slate that ran with you when you were first elected into the House, and seeing this. It's hard for those of us who've kind of felt like the government has really been against us, but to watch people who know how to, how to do the dance as far as in a gentle, Christ-like way, but getting things done, building bridges with people, being able to restore relationships that have been broken because of this aggressive, progressive agenda that's attacked our state. Yeah. It's very hard to see people on the other side as human, to be quite honest with you. And you do a really fantastic job of remembering that there's a bigger agenda here than just passing a bill. It is about humanity. Yes. And I really value that. I want you to know. I've watched that and thought, I've marveled, honestly.
Well, thank you.
So,
well, thank you for having me also. And this is a guiding principle, I think, for all of us. But every human being was created by God and is a spiritual person. So if I forget that, I forget the bigger picture. Mm-hmm. So that's why I do try to share Christ with people, and I try to pray for all the other representatives, because they're humans and we're all going to end up somewhere. Mm-hmm. And I want to try to help them with that. So thank you for noticing that.
I appreciate that so much. And thank you all for being with us here. We are at the National Association of Christian Lawmakers at the beautiful campus of Liberty University. If you have not been here, and if you've been thinking higher education is not for your children, you might want to come out and take a visit. I've been encouraged. My faith is being restored in higher education, and I hope you'll give this an opportunity to take a look at it. That's Liberty University, founded in 1971 to create courageous Christian leaders. We're going to be right back right after this.
I think you're muted.
You know what? Technology. Great conversation with Scott Bottoms, and he is, of course, running for governor of the state of Colorado. Go check him out. He is on all social media platforms, especially on X. And the best part is you will never have to guess where he stands. I deeply appreciate that, again, as we constantly see the evolution of our, quote, Christian lawmakers who get elected. It's quite refreshing, I assure you. So I want to take a moment and recognize our sponsor today for America's Mom Show here on X America News. And again, I need to stress to you guys how important it is that you hit share, that you share us out there. This is a platform unlike any other, guys. This is us. This is we the people bringing the information and the news to you unchecked. We don't have to be careful. We're not Chris Ruddy at Newsmax, being sued by Eric Coomer. We are just, we are everyday journalists who are getting the information, bringing it straight to you so that you don't have to guess what the truth is. And we're not trying to provide a bent or a slant, just tell you exactly what is happening. So remember us, X America News, share it with everybody. This is the place to be coming to for opinion pieces, as well as exactly what is going on out there. So yay for us. But our sponsor today is, of course, my great American manufacturer, shopwithpatriots.com. You're going to want to go there right after this show is over. Jot it down real quick. Shopwithpatriots.com to change your spending. Shift where you're spending your money. Now, here's the thing. Okay, I'm so confused, America. You guys all want more choices and options of companies that support you, America, support our workers, American workers, and support our local economy. Well, I have the solution for you. You can avoid woke Walmart, which, by the way, remember when Walmart was all American made? That was the dream, an all-American made manufacturer. I have that for you now. Remember when Target didn't, used to make clothing for children so they could hide their transgenderism from their parents? I actually remember that too. But things are what they are now, and we are finding great alternatives for you every single day. So shopwithpatriots.com. They provide almost 500 of your everyday use items. And instead of spending money with countries and corporations that do not share our values, put poisons and contaminants and chemicals into our products that literally are killing us, instead of funding them, go check out My American Manufacturer. Not only do they have the most amazing products for your health, your everyday hygiene, snacks, they have a grocery line you guys have been asking for a long time. But I want to talk about health for just a moment. So, of course, I've been on a journey. Probably the last 3.5 years have been the most amazing, exciting, and the most stressful of my entire life. And when you talk about stress, weight gain, or you can't hit your goals because your cortisol is too high and it's stopping you from getting where you want to be, well, I finally have found the perfect combination of supplements from my Shop with Patriots site that I'm using every single day. And by the way, I'm teaching so many men and women how to use them as well to get over that hump and stop giving into emotional eating. If there was one thing I would recommend for all of you, it would be my very, very special product right here at shopwithpatriots.com. And that is it's very, very special. I call it my yellow pill. I don't want to tell you any more about that. If you want more information, DM me. But it's literally changing the lives of so many who have been trapped by their cravings and their emotional eating and not being able to get control of themselves. When stress comes along, that typically happens. We eat our feelings, but it's a new day, guys. We are living in the golden age, and I want you to be there right with me. So I am experiencing amazing gains for the first time in a very long time, in a couple of years, actually. And I want you to have that benefit also. So check it out, shopwithpatriots.com, and DM me either here on X, Facebook, Instagram, wherever you find me, and I will absolutely direct you on exactly the products you should be using to get your health back on track. Shopwithpatriots.com to support American manufacturing, American workers, and of course, put our great American country first. You will never have to worry about chemicals, toxins, or poison being delivered to you or your family. Go check it out today. Now, before we share our second interview today, it's going to be just a minute because I want to talk at length about what's going on with Mike Lindell right now in Denver. So I was there on Friday, and I'm going to just spill some tea for you guys because, first of all, they say it's not a gag order, but you can't talk about anything happening in real time in the trial. So like if I went in and it wasn't lunch break yet, or actually if it wasn't 5 p.m. yet, apparently I'm not supposed to talk about anything I just saw in the trial. So if you were watching on Friday, I said maybe a couple things that I then worried we were going to get censored for. And so we took down that broadcast, put it back up later. But it's been really interesting that way. We haven't been able to do real-time reporting and let the people know what's happening. And there's been a lot of wild statements made by Eric Coomer's team. So to catch you up in case you've forgotten, Eric Coomer, a VP of Dominion Voting Machines, has sued Mike Lindell for defamation. Not only has he sued Mike Lindell, he has sued 25 other people who have either settled or their resolution has not yet happened. But those other people include Newsmax, Fox, OAN, okay? Big names, big media names. The Newsmax edition is what really caught the attention of Mike Lindell, though, because Eric Coomer said that Mike Lindell had defamed him, and since Newsmax was allowing Mike Lindell to come onto their platform and talk, therefore he was, by extension, going to sue them for defamation as well, for allowing Mike Lindell to come on and talk about his MyPillow company and the great philanthropic work that they do, all of that. So in a non-written agreement, Chris Ruddy agreed not to allow Mike Lindell to come back on Newsmax anymore to talk about his philanthropic work with MyPillow. And by the way, they have a mandatory, it's just what they do within their company at MyPillow, a 10% gift that they give to the community at large, period. It's their tithing of all the blessings that they have acquired through MyPillow. And also remember that MyPillow is an employee-owned company. Mike Lindell might be the largest shareholder, but this company is owned by its own employees. So anything that Eric Coomer did that he thought he was hurting Mike Lindell, he was really hurting the thousands of employees at MyPillow. And that was the point Mike Lindell began to make right away was, it's not about me. You're going after my employees now. You've told Newsmax that I can't come on there and talk about the amazing things that my company does. Therefore, you are a traitor. Now, here's the thing about this. You guys all need to keep in mind that I don't know if it was expressed or not during the trial. When you are a VP of Dominion Voting Machines, the largest electronic voting machine holder in the country, servicing up to 30 states in this country, okay? You are a public figure. And if I sat here and I talked about all the things that have happened to me, I'm not even as influential as Eric Coomer is. Eric Coomer was holding the actual product development in his hands of the Dominion voting machines. He was creating machinery and programming for the adjudication process in the Dominion voting machines in 30 countries for our elections. He is by far more influential than I ever could even imagine being, because he's literally a part of the process of voting, literally, by the machines that he is working on and the programming he is creating, okay? But somehow the rules of public figure don't apply to Eric Coomer. And he decided, and I quote, "It was time to shake the money tree," he texted to his brother just before he filed a lawsuit against Mike Lindell. He stated in the text message he was going after Mike Lindell, time to shake the money tree. Now, the jury has seen those text messages that Eric Coomer sent his brother. Eric Coomer has said that he was just completely damaged, but Eric Coomer's been going to a therapist for a very long time, long before the 2020 election. This was not new. His treatment and care under a therapist is not new, and apparently it's not working great. I don't know. I mean, allegedly. I mean, just from my perspective, wow, this guy is so unhinged. And I just want to say, too, he does not look well, but I don't think that has anything to do with this part of things. It's been life choices. I can see some things. I can see some things happening that are going on there. Important information that was not allowed into the trial was the fact that Eric Coomer in 22 was completely inebriated and drove his truck into the side of a building and crashed it, then ran away from the scene and then pretended like he was in the restaurant just beginning his drinking, right? That he hadn't been previously drinking. He just started drinking right there when the officers came in and said, "Mr. Coomer, that's your truck that you just ran into a building over there." Eric Coomer's attorneys over and over and over just tried to say that Eric Coomer's just a great guy, just a nice guy, just a nice guy. And you know what? We just want people to stop talking about him. Well, too freaking bad. You are a public figure of a company that has tremendous influence over our country, and you chose to be that VP. Nobody forced you into that position, and therefore you do have public accountability. And oh, by the way, people will call you names from time to time. It's pretty amazing. All the things, our family's been doxxed repeatedly. We have had unbelievable interactions with people that, you know, you just got to suck it up and take it, Eric. Like, yes, you do just need to suck it up. In fact, his attorney in closing argument said, it seems as though he's just supposed to suck it up. Yes, you are. Or don't be a public figure. Yes, that's exactly right. One can only hope that the 8-jury panel are going to see things the way that I see them right now. And hopefully most America sees, because this is absolutely an attack on First Amendment speech. And it's also what the attorney said in his closing statements completely correct. Eric Coomer's attorney, in the closing statement, nearly the last sentence that he stated, said, "Jury, we need you to send a message." Wait, I thought this was because Eric Coomer or because Mike Lindell said something mean about Mike Lindell, or excuse me, Mike Lindell said something mean about Eric Coomer on a show once. What message are you talking about, Dominion attorney? Oh, I know. You can't talk about the machines if you are the most influential man in the country with the largest base in the country of motivated, activated, great American patriots. You are not allowed to talk about Dominion voting machines. And essentially, when I finished listening to the closing arguments of Eric Coomer's attorney, it couldn't have been more obvious what they were saying. It was so apparent. It could not have been more apparent than in those words when he said, "Jury, we need you to send a message." So I want to highlight a few things. This is coming from Patrick Kolbeck. He is the president of the Election Crime Bureau and works very closely with Mike Lindell. And I have the great honor of working closely with him as well. And he's laid out a couple of questions that I think are very important before I share this video with you from Mike Lindell. First of all, how could Mike Lindell defame Eric Coomer if no one even knew who Eric Coomer was? Great question. He wasn't famous. And at the time of the alleged defamation, nobody knew who Eric Coomer was. Okay. And yet he already had begun suing multiple multiple news media and individuals. Okay. Do you realize it was stated too that he had threatened nearly well over 100 people with litigation if they spoke about him at all, or Dominion voting machines, in the same sentence? So just keep that in your mind also. How could Mike Lindell be held liable for publicly saying that Dominion's electronic voting systems were insecure when the Dominion head of security, Eric Coomer, said the same exact thing in private? You all should know this. The judge did not allow for the emails from Eric Coomer that you guys have all seen that show Eric Coomer saying that the equipment is shite, that it has bugs, that it's stupid, that we're horrible. All the things he said about his own company, Dominion, that he was working for, and his own programs, those were not admissible in the jury trial. You heard me right. He is the one who said it about his own company. And yet here we are. And why wasn't it allowed in the trial? Even when the Halderman, J.D. Halderman, took the stand, who was there for Coomer and to testify on behalf of Coomer, he readily admitted that the electronic voting machines were not safe, that Dominion's machines were not safe. They had still not taken the appropriate action to secure the machines, but he didn't think that they had stolen the 2020 election. Not anymore anyway, but that's another story. Number 3, over 150 samples of evidence were cited by Eric Coomer's team, and yet only one featured a sort of derogatory remark by Mike Lindell. How does that satisfy the preponderance of evidence standard for a civil trial? Now, if you're wondering what's on the table here also, by the way, for this preponderance of evidence, $55 million. $55 million is on the table right now, guys. That's what Eric Coomer would like to have from Mike Lindell for saying that Eric Coomer is a traitor. And this is after Eric Coomer had an unwritten agreement with Chris Ruddy of Newsmax saying, you will not let Mike Lindell come on anymore and talk about his MyPillow philanthropic work anymore. Yeah, that happened, guys. It happened. Many people need to understand and know a couple of things about what's going on here. We love and are so excited that we've had a jury trial now for Mike Lindell. That is what Mike wanted, was to be able to come before the people, have them look at the evidence, and then make a decision, not just about Eric Coomer, but about Dominion voting machines at large. And what was amazing to me is that every witness that came forward all had an element of agreement with Mike Lindell that these machines are irrevocably unsafe to use in our elections, period. Even J.R. Halderman, okay? Doesn't matter who it was, they all agreed these machines are not safe. So Eric Coomer decided to put Mike Lindell on trial, but the reality was it is Dominion voting machines. And those attorneys, 7 attorneys for Eric Coomer from Dominion voting machines, represented him and came after Mike Lindell and his 2.5, sometimes 3 attorneys, okay? A massive corporation that has managed to make itself wealthy through government contracts with no oversight and no accountability. And truly, when you see what the EAC, the Election Commission, has done to, quote, keep tabs on these companies, you'll be shocked and you'll be disturbed and disgusted. These things are too complex. That was another great realization throughout the trial. The machines are too complex for the everyday elected clerk to even know what to do with them. There's been too many instances of people not knowing what's happening inside the machines when they are activated to do whatever nefarious behavior or accidental behavior. It doesn't matter. The computer is programmed to do it, and the clerk does not have the knowledge to know what's going on. Our election should not be this complex. Last of all, I want to point out one last little thing here. I'm going to reshare this anyways, but Eric Coomer in an email that is dated for January 22nd of 2020, January 22nd, 2020. It says, Ray, Alaska, ICP modems failing acceptance testing. Did you know that the Dominion modems also failed acceptance testing in the state of Texas, and Dominion cannot be used in the state of Texas? Did you know that? 2 years ago, it failed, and they are not allowed to be used in the state of Texas. He responds, Eric Coomer responds to this message saying, what the fuck? But it's Mike Lindell that's been put on trial to defend his own words against Dominion voting machines that Eric Coomer said long before Mike Lindell ever did. Mike Lindell has a special video I want to share with you guys. This is a message directly from him just this morning as the jury is in their second day of deliberation on how they're going to rule. I don't know. It's anyone's guess. It's taken a very, very long time, which does not make me feel good about it because it should have been a very open and shut case. Eric Coomer is a public figure. He made public statements on his social media pages. He clearly was not supportive of his own company, even being a functional company that was actually doing the necessary things to protect our electronic voting machines. He says that himself. And yet here we are with Mike Lindell having to be the one who takes all the punches for this yet again, for pointing out the obvious. These machines are not safe, and we shouldn't be using a single one for our elections. Listen to Mike Lindell.
Hello, everyone. Well, it's the last day of the jury trial here in Denver, Colorado for My Pillow and myself. I want to thank you for your continued support and prayers. I really believe, God willing, that this will be the gateway to securing our elections, bringing back free speech and the American dream, and saving our country. Please help out if you can at mypillowtrial.com and continue the prayers. Thank you and God bless.
I want to encourage everybody again to go to mypillowtrial.com and go make a contribution today. The enormous costs, the enormous financial burdens on Mike Lindell personally have reached an all-time high. I mean, there is only so much you think a person can take. But you know what is amazing? The story of Mike Lindell is a story of second chances. This is a man who came to Christ in 2017, and his life has literally never been the same. And working as I get to on a regular basis with Mike Lindell and seeing firsthand faith in action and how he is relentless in doing what God has called him to do, I want to encourage you, get behind him, stand with him now. He's been the one taking all the daggers, taking all the bullets. It's time for us to stand with him and support him in this financial ask. There's nothing left. I don't know how much more clear Mike Lindell can be. And even in the courtroom, it's been indicated many times the financial situation of Mike Lindell. He has literally been in ruins due to the cancellation by these voting machine companies after Mike Lindell dared to question what happened in the 2020 election. They will do it to you. They will come after you. They will, quote, shake the money tree. Right, Eric? Shake that money tree. And that's exactly what Eric Coomer is attempting to do right now. We need to pray for wisdom and guidance for the jury. It's not too late. And that God would really just open their eyes to the real situation happening here. It's disturbing. And if he prevails, if Eric Coomer prevails in this trial, it's one that should make all of you be very aware in the future of what you say, because free speech is absolutely under attack in America. I want to take us to South Dakota and a great conversation that we had just last week, again, at the National Association of Christian Lawmakers with South Dakota Senator John Carley, talking about what's going on there. We all know Kristi Noem is from the great state of South Dakota. She's now overseeing the Department of Homeland Security. And we want to know, what should we understand about South Dakota? Is everything as it seems? Or do we need to be let in on any little secrets happening in the great state of South Dakota?
Welcome back, everyone. Here we are at Liberty University in Virginia for the NACL conference. This is the National Association of Christian lawmakers. And if you didn't know it existed, I did not either until recently. But I'm telling you right now, it would certainly help us keep our elected officials on track for the future. So I'm very excited to be sharing this with you guys. Also, I want to remind you, you are here with us on X America News on X, and I want you to make sure you're sharing out this information because you're not going to find it anywhere else. You're not going to hear from these amazing representatives anywhere else regarding the tools that are in place to help secure our representatives and quite frankly, make sure our fundamental rights are secured. So I'm very excited to introduce you guys to John Carley, a senator from South Dakota. And tell us a little bit about your experience with NACL. How did you end up here, and how is this benefiting your role as a representative for your people?
Yeah, National Association of Christian Lawmakers, like you said, not as many people know about it. And so getting the word out is great. But boy, once a lawmaker finds this organization, it's such a great organization for connecting a Christian worldview with how we're bringing lawmaking in our state. So certainly with South Dakota, we're glad to bring the learnings and understandings that we're picking up here and the networking with other fellow believers that we can share and encourage one another to bring good Christian worldview in lawmaking.
I mean, really, the reality is people are very frustrated with their representatives after just a few short years because it seems as though they forget why they ran, what they were being called to, and especially when they name the name of Christ as their motivation for stepping into representation. So how is NACL helping to kind of secure and kind of build a fence, I suppose, or a wall almost around to protect our representatives and keep them on the right path? How do they do that for you guys?
Yeah, they have a lot of methods. So one of them, of course, is using the Bible as one of our foundational elements. Our principles come from that, our U.S. Constitution, and then our individual state constitutions. But additionally, this group, what it does is we put together model legislation that we can share amongst other lawmakers. And we can kind of work on this legislation, make sure we craft it together so that we can bring it back to our states and implement it. And we have a team that works on it together here that ultimately will bring good legislation that follows these really important mandates that need to take place in our states.
And so for those who are listening right now going, wow, that's really interesting. Listen, the left does this all the time. How do you think wokeism spreads so fast across the country? Abortion laws spread so fast. They do this. They get together and they come up with all of these ways to subvert our constitutional protections, to end life, to take from the American people. And the NACL is doing the exact opposite. How do we preserve our rights and our liberties and honor God the way America was established to do so? When there are so many legislators here. It's so exciting to me to be here and see people who will really want to honor God, want to serve the people. You're from South Dakota.
Yep.
And I was asking you, Senator, what are some things that would be surprising to people to know about South Dakota? We see it as a really red state. What would be shocking for them to know, efforts that you've had to put your shoulder to that would be surprising?
Yeah, we're seen as that red state, but in the midst of red, there's quite a few that sometimes are not so red as individual voters. And so we are working hard, and I would say 3 areas that stand out that oftentimes are not as conservative as you would expect them to be. And again, the idea behind that is preserving traditional values or even biblical values. And so in particular, one of them we've really worked hard on this past year is election integrity. You would have thought, oh, hey, we're super red, we're going to have all the best election law, but we didn't. And so fortunately, we got like 23 different bills through this year just on election integrity and making sure that we preserve that fundamental, critical, important vote. Secondly, another area is landowner rights. We have a lot of land in South Dakota. We have landowners. We have big pieces of land, but we want to make sure that we protect the land from abuse of eminent domain. And that topic has come up across many states, particularly in the Midwest. And so making sure we preserve a good conservative values on protecting property rights for landowners. And then the third, I would say, is protecting kids. Again, part of conservatism is preserving the values. And, we've had to fight for some things to protect kids from pornography in libraries, from app stores, making sure we protect them from the internet and app stores and websites. And so, it's not easy just because we're a red state, hey, easy to pass. No, we actually have to fight that and argue for those values. And fortunately, we've been successful on some, and others we're fighting the battles that sometimes if it's all ours, maybe half of them actually may not really be ours, and are arguing against that. So we appreciate the prayers and support, continue to work on that.
Senator Carly, I want to talk just a little bit about your initial race. And you ran twice. The first time you were running against an incumbent of 15 years, the Speaker of the House, and did not win that time. But you hung in there.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that for people who are feeling that they've got a calling on their lives, but they're worried about maybe not winning the first time. Like, what's the process and how did this work out for you? And did you have to compromise your values in order to win?
Yeah, so running for office, it's a calling. The Lord should ask you to do it. We need good people to do that. We need good biblically based conservatives to do that. And when I ran the first time, it was very difficult because you're running against, of course, someone that has experience, that has incumbency. But I think ultimately that gets your name out there, it gets exposure, so that by the time I run the second time, hey, you've already kind of got one leg up and you're heading that direction. And ultimately, I think when I looked at it, I saw votes, just because it said Republican, it's a people's votes. That's what ultimately matters. A politician can say anything, but what doesn't lie is their vote. And so after seeing that, I felt like we need to bring better votes to our state. And so ran the second time, worked hard. It takes a lot of effort. It does take funds. It takes, but I think anyone can do it if the Lord ultimately has given you that strength and energy to move forward. You can do it. I encourage people to do it. We need more biblically based people in different legislatures, as well as county commissions, city councils, all of those, school boards. It's very important for preserving it in each of our states. So yeah, so it's fun. You have to depend on the Lord. He's there. He'll give you the strength right at the right moment every time. And was fortunate to be successful, get in there and bring a united front with a number of conservatives that we got in.
My last question for you, life verse. Is there a verse that you're leaning on specifically right now during this season?
Yeah, I love Proverbs 3, 4, 5, and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will make your path straight. So that's the verse I love.
Thank you so much,
You're
Senator
welcome.
Carly. Thank you so much for being with us and for sharing your testimony with us. And again, I just want to encourage people who are watching and thinking that there are no good politicians out there. Well, we're not looking for politicians. We're looking for servants of men who really want to advance and protect our Constitution and our way of life. We're going to be right back right after this.
All right, everyone. I want to thank you guys for being with us today on America's Mom. This is my last travel day. We'll be back in studio again on Wednesday. But I deeply appreciate those of you who come back here Monday, Wednesday, Friday to hear what's going on and let us bring the stories that we think are really important, that are impacting you in your local area and affecting you in your local community. When we talk about Colorado, it's because it's such a broader conversation. When we're talking about South Dakota, so many great patriots live there and think they aren't heard. When we're talking about Maryland, they think that there's only a handful of conservatives. But just like Elijah, there are many, many more. You are not alone. Patriots are everywhere. People who love this country, fear God, and want to see the family restored are everywhere. And so it's a pleasure and an honor to be here with you guys day after day, Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, 2 p.m. Eastern time, right here on X America News. Please be sure to follow us on all of our platforms, from Facebook to X to Instagram and Getter, Rumble, all the things. And we're going to look forward to building again with all of you. Thank you for being with us here on America's Mom. Remember, all that's necessary for evil to prevail is for good men and women to do absolutely nothing.